Hello, everybody. It is I, your Professor Shelby, here to teach you all about careers. Just kidding. But it is me. I am solo, and we are doing a Cheers to Careers episode. Um, Taylor is off enjoying her honeymoon with the lovely Tony, and so I am up for the solo episode turn. It's been actually quite a while since I've done a Cheers to Careers. I was kind of like, dang, where did we leave off? And if you're new this season, I have a little mini series that I do for the podcast where I talk all about careers, really just advice, tips. I'm very passionate about business and people crushing it in their careers. And often in my career, I found that there's very few supportive people. And there's so many tips and tricks and information on the internet. So that is why I wanted to have this little mini series. And yeah, if you are new, go check out past episodes. I think there's been like four, maybe five now. I can't remember. But this is the first one of season four. So I'm excited to be back talking about it. I won't lie, I'm not as pumped about it as I normally would be. I think that if you have been caught up, you know that my career has gone through it this year. And so my career energy, motivation, drive, all of it is just like in a tornado, it feels like, where I'm just so confused and so unsure about where I'm headed, what I'm doing, if I'm making the right decisions. And I think that that's something that we all go through so often in our careers. I know for sure this is not the first time I've been in this situation, and it will not be the last. But normally I'm like crushing it in the career world, and I'm still crushing it. It's just different than I expected the year to be. The job is looking different than it was intended to be. And I'm just trying to figure out I don't know, what my next moves are. I'm definitely not feeling pulled one direction or the other. I have a very cush job. I am doing work that's not my favorite work. And I think that's really what it comes down to is like if you're not passionate about your career and it's not lighting you up every day, then that's a pretty big sign that like you're probably not doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing, and it will start to just wear on you. I know that I have been not my best self because when work is draining you to that level, it's not lighting you up. It definitely takes a toll on your mental state, your emotional state, your physical state. And I've gone through that. I've gained so much weight. I have been stressed. I have been burnt out again, like so many things. And I have to keep checking myself and reminding myself that like I have stable income. The job itself isn't that bad. It's actually most people would kill to have this job. And I get to work from home. I have the flexibility that I've been needing. I have the ability to take Henley to everything that she needs to do. So I have to kind of like toxic positivity my way through it right now. But I'm at the stage where I don't know if I'm going to be staying at this job. I don't know if I'll be doing something on my own. I don't know if I'll be going to another corporate situation. Like, I'm just trying to figure that out. But I'm big on my intuition, and my intuition hasn't been pulling me in any specific direction. Like, I've looked for some jobs, none of them have been calling to me, none of them feel like, oh my gosh, this is a thing. And when I actually got this job, that was a big part that like guided me towards leaving my last job and applying for this job and getting this job is like everything felt so aligned, and I'm big on energy and my intuition, and right now it's just not there. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to remain positive, to enjoy it where it's at and not let it burn me out, but it's easier said than done. So probably as I do the next episode or two, I'll probably do an episode kind of around this type of topic just because I'm obviously going through it. So I can give a lot of insight of what it's like for me personally. But that's just a little catch up of where I have been, what's been going on, and probably why my energy is not as lit up. Like business and career stuff really does light me up. Like any of my friends that are wanting to start their things, I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. And it like gasses me up and I'm so excited. But my own personal career right now is just not really there. I really do just wish I could be a business manager for all of my friends and help them run and manage their businesses because that's so exciting to me, but maybe in the future, but right now that's not the time. So, yeah, that's why I am in this state, I guess. So I still am very passionate about business, still very excited to be talking about it. And remember, business doesn't just mean working at a desk at an office. Your job is a career, that's business. Like you're living the same life. It just looks different because I don't know, society's made it seem that way. We're all in a career, we're all working in a business and doing the same things and going through the same things. So anyways, yeah, I'll just jump into the topic now. For this episode, we are going to be talking about landing the job. I have a lot of people in my life right now looking for jobs, trying to figure out if they're switching or just unhappy. Just they're all in completely different places. And so I kind of wanted to break down some of the tips and tricks that I have. I have done recruiting for a very long time. Most of my career, I have been in a role where I have played a huge part in the onboarding and recruiting process. A lot of job interviews, so many job interviews. I've looked at so many resumes. So I feel like it's a good topic to talk about. I think a lot of people are very intimidated by the topic and the process and don't really know where to start sometimes. So that's what I wanted to chat about, is just kind of how to land that job. And so what we'll go over is job hunting skills, where to look for jobs, how to look for jobs, your resume, interviewing, all of that. So like I said, I have done this on the side that you're not on a bunch of times. Unfortunately, I have not been in the seat. I mean, unfortunately, I have not been in the seat of being an interviewee or someone looking for a job very often. I have been quite lucky when it comes to finding a career, and the path and the jobs have kind of worked out really well for me, but I have been on the other side. I have recently gone through the whole interviewing process, job hunting, all of that. So it seems like it's pretty cutthroat still. When I was looking for my current job, it was really difficult to land a job interview alone. And so, yeah, I feel for people right now that are looking. I have a friend that she was laid off and she's looking and it's just impossible, especially once you reach a certain place in your career, when you have reached a certain status where you are looking for one of those jobs that are at the higher end. It can even be harder because you come with like a pre-filled criteria in your mind of this is what I want from a job. I want to be able to have all these perks and these luxuries that I've had. And sometimes you have to let those go. But a lot of times when you work that hard, you're like, okay, no, I'm expecting this same type of stuff because I've busted my ass to get here. So we're going to talk a lot about a lot of these different things. Just some tips for your resume, cover letters, interviews, and strategies that you can use. So yeah, that's where we're headed. Let's start really quick with actual job hunting. Um, right now there's quite a few platforms and things out there for where to look for jobs. I am a big advocate for LinkedIn. I think that it's a great place to look for a job, but it's not the best place for all positions. So that's something to take into consideration, that LinkedIn is more of a extremely professional area. It's something that I would probably be looking for a job if you're looking for marketing jobs, if you're looking for a job that's in the office doing some kind of business stuff. I mean, there's so many jobs on LinkedIn really, but LinkedIn is of that higher quality, I guess I would say. It's a bit harder to land a job interview, I would say sometimes on LinkedIn too, because there's so many users on there and a lot of them have a lot of skills, and there's so many resources that LinkedIn provides that makes it easier for you to tailor your profile to what that job is looking for. And so it's making it so that people are just being cut out of interview processes super fast because they've customized their profile. I know when I was job hunting, there was multiple times I would have to go adjust what my skills were listed on my profile so that I had like a 9 out of 10 match. And anytime that you can go and take that time, like, oh, you have 6 out of 10 skills, go change some of those skills and it will give you a drop down telling you like what skills they're looking for. That's an even better way to make sure that you don't get cut out because they have filters. So that's a little trick on my end I'll share with you, is that as a recruiter, you can have like a filter that says like if they don't have 8 out of 10 skills, 6 out of 10 skills, whatever it is, if they don't have this number of skills, automatically decline them. Like they don't get an interview. So take the time to do something like that. I know it can be cumbersome and annoying, and it's a grueling process to apply for jobs, but that's a big tip there. The other big platform is Indeed. It has gotten a lot better. Early on, Indeed was the number one place to look for jobs. And I think LinkedIn's kind of taken over on that. It's definitely where most companies are wanting to push their jobs more is on Indeed, or not Indeed, sorry, LinkedIn. But Indeed is starting to really realize that and change how their platform is, change how their process was. For example, my company right now, we don't even post our jobs on Indeed. So we're only posting them on LinkedIn. But Indeed is really great too. And they have a ton of resources on there for you, a ton of tips. It's super, super friendly for all types of positions, lower end, mid, and high. And so I would double check both of them. So when I was applying for jobs and I was trying to leave my last job, I was heavily scouring Indeed and LinkedIn almost daily. Did anything new get posted? So I would just keep an eye out on both of those. It's nice because they have easy apply features now. So I would take advantage of those whenever you can so that you can just get through them pretty quickly. And then also another tip that I have been sharing with people too is to have a couple different versions of your resume. So there's going to be some jobs with how they're worded or the position they're posting for, they're gonna be basically the same thing because so many people's roles overlap with other roles, I would say. So I would have a couple different versions of your resume that are pretty similar, but the title's different, or there's a couple different skills or something. Like do some type of differences there. You can even use Chat GPT. That's like the best thing you could do is to utilize something like that to just make some quick versions, and then you know which version to upload and you don't have to take the time to hurry and go edit something. Um, the other part of job hunting, I would say, is to like use your network. So it's so crucial right now, especially with how cutthroat the environment is, to use whatever network you have. Don't be afraid to tell people, like, hey, I'm looking for a job. If you know anything, let me know. Don't be afraid to talk with your friends and your family and let them know that you're on the market. Um, and that like this is your criteria, this is kind of some things you're looking for, and have them help spread the word. They like, you have no idea how many times people like have heard, oh, you're looking, and then you're like, oh yeah, I have a friend that's like needing a job, or oh cool, you're hiring, or they see a sign and they send you a post, or they get targeted for a job at it, and that's like how you found that job. So don't be afraid to use your network and let people know that you're looking for a new job. And I know sometimes it can be hard if you're not letting your company know that you're looking, but that's when you for sure use your other network where it's not tied to your work relationships, as many as possible that are like directly close to your job. Or you can also reach out to people and, hey, this is super on the down low, like I'm looking. And sometimes that's all it takes, honestly. So don't be afraid to share that you're looking. Don't be ashamed that you're leaving your job. There used to be this huge stigma that you had to stay at your job forever, and like, why the hell would you leave? So don't be afraid of that. Like that is like changing, and move on and be open about it. It's going to be the best thing you could do. Um, I'd also focus on the quality of the job that you're looking for. Like when you're searching, there's so many jobs out there. So research companies that you admire. That's like one of the first things I did when I was on LinkedIn looking for a job is I started following companies that I was like, I want to work here. They treat their employees good. They seem to have a great work-life situation, and they have remote work, like anything where you're like really interested in like their product. Or because I think at the end of the day too, like you have to think about, am I interested in that industry? Am I interested in like what they're selling or what it is that they do? Because if you're not interested in what they're offering customers, like you're gonna freaking hate it. I was a bit skeptical applying for the job I have now because it's in the construction realm and I've never really worked in that, but I don't know, I went for it and turned out to be pretty great. So just make sure that you're starting to follow those companies that you like, check to see if they have job openings, connect with people that work there, and really start to like surround yourself. It kind of goes back to like the Power of the Universe episode that Taylor and I just put out, where like surround yourself in an environment that you want to be in. So start following those, consuming that information, consuming those areas that really excite you and make you interested, because that's going to be one of those things that kind of starts to channel that energy and bring that into your life. You can follow them on social media. And sometimes you'll have like random connection options. Like maybe they'll post something and you can comment on it and like start making a connection there. And maybe it doesn't work out or maybe it does, but that starts your network. So I would just be very creative and crafty when it comes to starting to be on the prowl for a new job, and just make sure that you're aligning yourself with companies and places where you actually want to be. Like, don't just be like, oh, well, this job sounds fine. But then you're like I always would be like, okay, here's the job posting. I'd look at the title, I'd look at the pay, I'd look at like the job tasks and be like, okay, I'm kind of interested. And before I ever did anything else, I would then go look at the company. I would look at their LinkedIn page. I would look at what the people are, who's working there, what the life page has. If they didn't have a life page, I was kind of like, ooh, smaller company doesn't really care about this type of stuff on LinkedIn. They're not willing to fund this. Like, I don't know if I want to work there. So like start investigating the company before you even apply, because that's going to help you so much more too. Like down the road, it'll help you in your interview process. It'll help you while you're working there. But also, like, if you don't care about these things, you could join this company and then truly hate it. So just keep that in mind. Let's see. All right, so let's talk about your resume really quick, because we kind of jumped ahead to the actual like job hunting portion a little bit. But with that, you need to build a nice resume. And when I say nice, it needs to look clean and organized. It cannot be chaotic. Having a picture on there, I truly think is a big no. You'll have some recruiters that say that, yeah, it's great, but I am a firm believer. I've been in trainings about this where if you provide a picture of yourself on your resume, you're already getting an automatic like yes or no just based off of your looks. And sometimes that's a huge disadvantage for people. And honestly, like I was guilty of it. Sometimes people would put their picture on there and you'd be like, hell no, I'm not hiring you. You look like a freaking weirdo. So keep that in mind. Like that will happen. As much as you don't want to be biased as a recruiter, it's natural. It's in us as humans and it will happen. So keep that in mind. And also for me, I'm a perfectionist. I like things to look neat. I like things to look tidy. You're applying for a job to do something professional for somebody. So if your resume sucks, it's not organized, it's chaotic, it looks too loud or crazy, like that's not going to cut it for me. If it's a job in marketing, that's going to be a little different, because marketing is really about showcasing things on paper or on the internet. And so sometimes a marketing role, you have different things that you're thinking about. So think about the role you're applying for and what it is that someone's going to want to see while they're looking at that resume, and use that to customize it and make it more tailored to you and the positions that you're looking for. But yeah, don't have a chaotic resume. And seriously, get on ChatGPT and say, here's my resume. Do you have any ideas of what you would want to change? What would be the best? So ChatGPT is legit. If you're not using it still, you're crazy. You can upload documents now, or you could just copy and paste it. But I would be very, very mindful with your resume, because that's a huge aspect in getting an interview. So the next thing I would also do is you could ask ChatGPT about keywords for passing applicant tracking systems. So a lot of companies will have an ATS, an applicant tracking system, that will automatically filter through resumes. Indeed has one set up. LinkedIn has one already set up. It's built into their recruiting platforms. And then there's other companies that work with other softwares that will do this, and they will just kick you out of the interview process or recruiting process just based off of scanning your resume. So no one is even physically looked at it. It's a computer. So ask ChatGPT some keywords for passing these applicant tracking systems and make sure that you have those in your resume. Another way that you could really enhance your resume too is quantifying your experience. So putting a number to something. So if you were in sales, you could say that you increased sales by 30%, or in marketing, there's all these different data points of things that people do. Like add that information. When I was applying, I think I added some, but not a lot, because my role was so diverse. It didn't really need to add like a quantifying experience. Um, it was more of like providing information about what I did without it being too hard to read or too much to read. So that's the challenge I ran into. I love resume building. So if you ever have a question, send me your resume. Say, hey, what's your email? Can I email you my resume and have you look at it? I have built a bunch of resumes for people in my time. And I can quickly just be like, I would take this off, change this, do this, like whatever you're looking for, I can totally help. I love this so much. Um, but yeah, make sure your formatting's legit. Like it needs to be clean fonts. There needs to be bullet points. There needs to be clear sections separating things out. Don't have too many things with your responsibilities. Like it needs to be very clear how long you were working there, what your job was, and I don't know. And like you don't need to go all the way back to high school anymore. There's so many resumes that literally would go all the way back to high school. And I'm like, okay, you're 40. I don't need to know that you graduated high school. Here's another thing. This is another bias that's super fucked up. If you have on there that you are like you graduated college at in 1990, that tells me that you are very old compared to me, and that's going to be a thing that people are looking at. So if you're wanting to get an interview and show who you are for yourself, try to refrain from adding things that are going to make these biases happen. So your grammar, your formatting, your age, your picture, all of these things are going to come into play, and you need to be very mindful of it. Another huge thing that irritated the shit out of me was when people would say, I'm 34 years old and I do like at the beginning of their resume, they have like a list of like who they are and their hobbies. And it's like, no, save that for the interview, girl. Like, I don't need to know that you walk your dog and that you're 34 and love sunshine. Like, it's so, so stupid to me. If you are looking for a role that's hybrid or remote, those are also going to be different. There's going to be different things on your resume that you would want to do that's kind of strategic. Sometimes if people are too far away from the state that is hiring a hybrid or remote role, that's a factor where they already kick you out because they know they have to fly you to that place and it's more expensive. So be mindful of these types of things. Let's see. You could look on Canva too to see like if they have any resume templates, but I truly think that Canva's templates are a little too much for me. Like I said, everyone has their different preferences, but for my standpoint, the more professional you can be, the better. What stands out in a resume isn't the fancy designs and all of those things. It's the actual content in your resume. It's what you're highlighting about yourself and your professional experience. A big thing for me too was gaps in work history. So if there's an opportunity for you to have in your bio any information about why you had a gap, that would be helpful sometimes, because there's for sure people that would get kicked out of our process because I was like, I don't know what happened in this job interview and I have too many applicants. I don't even have time to give you an interview to ask why you had this gap in your job history. So keep that in mind. Also, be aware that people are going to look at your social medias. They're going to Google you. They are going to try and figure out what you look like before the interview. They're going to try and investigate you. Like it's 100% a thing. And if you aren't doing that, if you do recruiting and you're in charge of hiring, you should definitely start looking these people up on the internet before they come in for their interview, because there's been plenty of times where I was like, oh, hell no, we have got to cancel this interview. So yeah, keep that in mind. Let's see, what else do we have next? Cover letters. I think they're a hit or miss. If they ask for a cover letter, you better fucking give them a cover letter. Not everyone asks for one, but double check to see if the job posting asks for a cover letter. A lot of times I would specifically ask for one just to see who didn't follow the instructions, because that tells me already that you skipped over something, you didn't think it was important, and you're going to do that in your work. So check the job posting, see if they ask for a cover letter. And if you feel strongly, you can provide one, but a lot of times people aren't looking at them. it takes a while into the process before someone actually reads your cover letter. And a lot of times people do ask for them because they do want a little bit more information. So if they want it, they will ask. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't, but be mindful of that. And this is your opportunity to be very short and concise, explain a little bit more about yourself and why you want the position or why you're looking. That's always a huge thing that recruiters want to know is like, why are you wanting to leave your job? So if you can ask ChatGPT a strategic way to say that. So what I do a lot is I would just type like, here's kind of what I think I would say in my cover letter. And then I upload it into chat and I'd say, hey, this is a cover letter I'm thinking of. This is the position. Can you go through and make sure that this works? And if it leaves out anything that you wanted to stand out, ask it like, oh, I wanted to make sure something like this was included. Or can you strategically include a way for me to let them know why I'm looking for a new job? Um, but yeah, use your cover letter as an opportunity to give a little bit more detail to help you make it into that next phase, which is the interview phase. Um, don't be too wordy. Don't, it needs to be professional still. So there needs to be some level of them reading it and trying to understand who you are. And that's how you kind of can personalize it a little bit, but it's still a bit difficult because it does need to remain pretty short. But yeah, ChatGPT again will be your best friend. And also, again, if they ask for it, you better provide it. One thing I did too when I was searching is I had a couple different versions of a cover letter too. So, um, one that was more exciting, less professional, just based off of like the type of vibe I could take from the company. So do your research on the company when you're looking at it about to apply before you tailor your cover letter. Because if you can see that it's a super, like if you were going to apply to a financial like company, they're super strict. Like finance people are so strict. All they care about is data and numbers. So be mindful of like where you're applying and then tailor it to that. Um, yeah, I think that's pretty much all I would say about that. The next stage from there, you would hopefully get the interview. So if you've been applying for jobs, make sure you're keeping an eye out. If you're getting phone calls, that are like random numbers. I know we all get spam calls, but be mindful that someone is probably going to be calling you for an interview. A lot of places now have started to just email for an interview, but be responsive. There are so many times that people would not get back to us. Interview times fill up so quick for people. You need to be looking out for them. You need to jump on it. You need to like get your schedule freed. If you can't make the time, it starts to really have them be like, how serious are they wanting this job? Because if people are trying to find candidates, they want to fill the position. They don't want to be waiting 2 weeks, 3 weeks for an interview. We want to pump them all in. We want to interview. We want to start narrowing it down. A lot of places now have a long, long interview process. So just know that like if you're applying and you're serious, keep an eye out and make the time. Figure out how to make the time for an interview. Um, but once you get that, before you go into the interview, the biggest thing I can't stress enough is like prepare for your interview. Like do research on the company, reread the job posting, look at all the skills and the tasks and all the things that they want you to do and accomplish in this job and start writing out some questions. Figure out what do you want to know? I know you always want to know about the pay, you want to know about the benefits, and you always want to know about those types of things. Do not ask them at the beginning. Ask so many other questions before you ever get to that, because it's a huge turnoff if you start immediately with like, how many hours and what do I get as like paid holidays and how much am I going to make? That immediately makes me be like, okay, you're done. So make sure that you write out some questions that are solid for the position about the company. There's so many good questions that you can ask. Like, oh my God, I could just give you a whole list. Like, you can ask why they're hiring for this position. Is it a new position or is it a replacement position or are they growing the team? You can ask them about the manager, who you would be working for, what's their work style like, how long have they been with the company, how many people are on the team, just so many different things. There's so many things that when you read a job like posting, you should look at the tasks and be like, okay, I'm curious about what this means. is this all on me? Am I sharing this workload with teammates? Like there's so many questions. So ChatGPT, I'm sure could give you a ton. You could always DM me and be like, here's a job posting. What questions should I ask? I will totally give you a ton of them. But be prepared that they're going to ask you about yourself. Like, I know that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. They're going to say, like, tell me about yourself. Like, what should I know about you? Be prepared with something that's professional, but like lighthearted, not too much information, but enough that they can understand like the basics of who you are as a person before like you dive into just work stuff. So talk about you as a person, and then you can slowly like at the end make it more about like who you are as a professional if you want, but I don't think you really need to. And seriously, don't tell people how old you are. Don't be like, I'm a 34-year-old mom and I just do this with my kids and blah blah blah. Like you got to make yourself look cool, and also no one cares about your age. Like it's so frustrating when people are like, I'm 23 and I just graduated high school and this is my first job. Like no. Um there's common questions that you will for sure be asked. A lot of times you will be asked about how you handle the difficult situation. So like look at the common questions that are on the internet and like be prepared with an answer. Like start thinking about how you would answer that. A lot of people want to know about the culture. And I think that's always a difficult question for recruiters to answer because you have to remember that most people, like at a company, no company is perfect. And so when you ask about the culture, like don't just say, "How is the culture?" Like, try and add a little bit more substance to that question because that's such an open-ended question and they're always gonna say it's great. So think about, like, what you like about a team culture. Do you like team activities? Do you like in-person meetings? Do you like free swag, or I don't know, there's so many things that go into the culture. So get specific about what you like about a company culture and ask if they have these types of things, or like get more specific when you ask about that so that you can actually get an answer besides a generic question or generic answer to your question because you left it so open and vague. Um, be prepared that they want you to talk. Like my biggest thing when I was interviewing, I was the queen of like a 2-3 minute interview because I can very quickly assess whether you're here for the long haul, if you actually want the job, or if you're just an idiot and you're just looking for a job. Like I'm not trying to hire people that are basic. I'm looking for people that are serious about having a career. So for me, I would always ask like, tell me about yourself. Like, oh, first you thank them for being here. Always stand up, shake their hand for sure. That's like the professional thing to do. Dress fucking professional too. Oh my God, I cannot stress that enough. Like, it doesn't matter what type of job it is, you should dress like a professional. It was always insane to me how people would dress. Don't wear too crazy of makeup. Don't wear too crazy of jewelry. Don't wear too crazy of perfume. Like all of these things are going to rule you out in an interview process if it's not, I don't know, if it's off-putting. Like it's so crazy to me that people don't understand that. Be mindful if you're tall like me. Often I would have to be mindful of like, okay, I'm pretty tall. So if I wear heels, I could be very tall compared to the person interviewing me, and that can be a frustrating thing, especially for men. So be mindful of those types of things. Be mindful of the fact that you might be walking around with them. So if you struggle walking in your shoes or the outfit isn't comfortable, you're going to be fidgeting, you're going to be uncomfortable, you're going to be moving. Like right now, my bra's uncomfortable. So I'm straightening it right now. And you will end up actually doing these types of things in your interview because as humans, once you get comfortable and settle in, you just do things. You don't realize, and then you're like, oh shit, I just adjusted my bra. Like that's really uncomfortable. So be mindful of your outfit, what shoes you're wearing, so that you, I don't know, you're just prepared and you don't feel sloppy or chaotic or uncomfortable. Anyway, so back to what I was saying. Uh, greet them, wear something professional, be kind to the front desk people. Like I can't stress this enough too. I was always very adamant to ask my front desk people, how did they treat you? Were they nice to you? Were they rude to you while they were sitting here? Were they dicks? Were they like judging people? Like what was going on? Because if they treat the front desk staff like shit, they will do that to everyone else around them. So I don't know. You should really want to get the input of people and the touch points that they had with them when they didn't know that they were already in the interview process. Um, so yeah, greet them, shake their hand, sit down, don't fidget too much for sure. Always take a water with you. If they offer you water, great, take it. Your mouth will definitely get dry. Do not chew gum and do not have like a mint or a candy. Um, and basically what I would do is I would just thank them for being there. And then I would introduce who I was interviewing with, what we did for the company, and then I would ask them about themselves, which is like, again, a very standard thing that they're going to probably ask you. And then the next thing I would do is I'd literally say, okay, so what questions do you have for us about the position? And it always threw them off. Some people handled it really well and some people didn't. But if people did not have questions, they were an immediate no for me. Because if you can come to a job interview and you don't have a single question about the company, the job, anything, that tells me that you're not serious about the job or job hunting to be exact. And I don't want you on anyone's team. If you can't come in and have questions and you can't be prepared and you didn't put the time in, then I don't want to waste my time with you. So be prepared to ask questions about the company, about the position. Sometimes other people will interview different and they will ask you specific questions, but if you're prepared to already have questions, that's going to help you because that means you've already done some research and you have information to answer. Um, the other thing I would say too is if they do have a lot of questions that they ask you and they're very specific in their interview process where they want to do a lot of the guidance there, make sure that you save time, like let them know I have some questions too, so can we make sure that I have time at the end to answer them. Be upfront about that because some people have a lot of questions that they do actually want, and then some people are on a like structured interview schedule and they might not save a lot of time for that, so give them the opportunity to know that you have questions yourself. If they ask you a question that's actually going to, and you answered something or they answered something with that was on your list, be like, oh, perfect. That was actually one of my questions. Make sure that you say that because they'll be pumped that you had the same question. Um, Another idea for a question you can ask them that just came to my mind is like asking them about like what success looks like in that role. Like what to them makes that candidate a successful candidate. That's something that will stump them and they'll get them talking for a while and they'll start kind of blabbering a lot more about the role and then you can get more insight there too. Virtual interviews are very popular right now too. I think they're a bit uncomfortable personally because most of my recruiting experience was always in person until COVID. And then also now I work for a global company and everything's basically virtual. So I've had to get very, very familiarized with virtual interviews and meetings, but they're also becoming more common because it's easier for people to get to them. The biggest thing I would say with virtual interviews, make sure you have a link. Make sure that your internet is good. Make sure you test your like your cameras, your microphone. Do not just like hope it all works out. Do not take your virtual interview from your phone and be holding your phone like this in front of you the whole time. That is so terrible. Make sure you have good lighting. Make sure that there's not like any crazy sounds around you. Make sure that you are probably wearing headphones because you can hear, like oftentimes it's hard to hear people. Um, so it'll be easier for you to hear us and us to hear you. And then also like check your surroundings. Make sure you have like a good professional-ish vibe behind you because we are for sure, for sure judging your spaces. Um, we're definitely like, oh, interesting choice of backgrounds. Don't have a crazy background, like virtual background. What else? Mm, I feel like that's probably all I would say. Be prepared that the virtual interview is going to be uncomfortable, and it's a lot harder to read cues of when you can speak. So I like to have my microphone muted a lot on meetings and unmute it when it's my turn to speak. You can like raise your little hand, like the little thing on the meeting that raises the hand. But just keep an ear out and eye out for those cues of when you have an opening to speak because you cannot understand people when you talk over each other on virtual meetings. I mean, you guys have to notice it on the podcast when Taylor and I talk over each other. It's something that it doesn't pick up on a virtual meeting because all the sound is flooding everything at once. So just be mindful of that. You could practice like recording yourself in a meeting beforehand so you can kind of see like how your body language looks, how your lighting looks, how you sound. I know I've done this sometimes before. I've presented where I've recorded myself like giving the presentation so that I can see how it looks, try and like pick up on my annoying things. Like everyone has annoying things that they do when they're speaking. So I would highly suggest like practicing in front of someone or recording something. What else? Make sure you give yourself like 5 minutes before the interview to like really get set up and settled because it can be really freaking like flustering and flustering. Is that even a word? I don't know. You can get really flustered is what I'm trying to say when you're rushing to a meeting. So anytime you have to I mean, it's in person too. If you're rushing from meeting to meeting, you always show up like a freaking crazy person. So give yourself like a couple minutes before the meeting starts to make sure your computer's working, everything's set up, you have your notes, you have your water, you go pee, like whatever it is that you need to do, give yourself that time so that you can settle before you have to jump onto the meeting. Don't speak too loud. Don't be like, like, oh my gosh, it's so people like think they need to yell and you don't need to. You have a microphone, so just remember it's going to pick that up. So, um I think that's what I'd say for the most part with interviewing. The next part would then be following up, your follow-up etiquette, those types of things. I will say, and this kind of goes to the job hunting portion too. As a recruiter, I don't always love getting a LinkedIn message. It's pretty annoying, and that's just probably my personal preference. I know other people have it, but it's probably more common that people aren't that upset by it. I personally don't like when people were job hunting and they'd be like, "Hey, I just applied for this job." And it's like, "That's cool. Like, go through the interview process." Um, and then also like following up to an interview if they sent like a LinkedIn message, that kind of irritated me. So always ask for an email before your interview is over. Ask who you can follow up with, ask for the next steps. That's a huge thing, sorry, that I didn't mention, which kind of plays into this follow-up etiquette is like before the interview ends, ask for your next steps. Ask them like, okay, so what's the next steps? When are you planning to fill the position? When do you think I will hear back? Those types of things are crucial. Setting an expectation is big for us in recruiting, but sometimes we can forget. And it's nice for us to set an expectation for you. And then when we were always interviewing in person, we would be like, grab our business card at the front. Feel free to follow up with us. If you think of any questions, feel free to reach out. I loved when people would like remember something that was actually really crucial. Um, and then they'd reach out and be like, oh, I forgot to ask this. So don't hesitate to get their information to be able to follow up. And then also keep it brief and don't make it like too schmoozy. Don't make it too like, I don't know. Sometimes we get handwritten cards and that was nice, but they almost came too late. Um, but yeah, I think it's important to follow up, but give time. So make sure you have that expectation from them. If they didn't set one, the minimum I would say is a week. Like wait a week before you follow up. If they said we will have a decision in 2 days and it's been 4, then you can obviously break that rule. But yeah, I know it's like an anxious period. A lot of companies too have like the worst fucking processes once it gets to this point where they're narrowing down candidates. It can take forever. You can be called back for a second interview. Sometimes they already know there's second interview. So like that's why you want to ask like what's the next steps in their interviewing process. Um, but try not to like get too anxious or like worried or like, oh, I'm not getting it. I haven't heard anything. Just like know that it takes time, know that there's so many other people that are involved and just do your little touches, reach out, and be polite. Like just know that it's like a business, and like a lot of times it's not in the recruiter's hands. It's probably held up on someone else's desk for a decision or I don't know, just bad managing of their processes. So don't take it too personal. Let's see. On that note, you will probably get rejections. So I know that it's easy to be frustrated and go through this process of like, I've applied for, like, I'm telling you, when I was applying for my new job, I swear to God, I applied for over 100 jobs, like, and I barely had any interviews. So I know that it's frustrating and I know that you're going to get no's a lot. try to remain positive, try not to let that energy like surround you because that's not good energy to have around you anyways. And just know that it's not a reflection of like your worth. It doesn't mean you're a shitty employee. Like it doesn't mean that you're the worst person ever and you're never going to get a job. Like if you wallow in that and if you think that, that's literally the energy you're attracting. So it's the same thing that I said, like the power of the universe episode. What you're saying to yourself and how you're viewing that rejection is adding more of that energy into your life. So just don't take it personal. If you have the opportunity, you can ask them. Sometimes you're able to ask them like what disqualified you. If you can, like take that as a learning opportunity. If they share like, oh, this was the certain reasons someone had this skill more than you, like use that as an opportunity to be like, I need to improve my skills. Maybe I need to do this. So you can always ask for that feedback. There's nothing wrong with that, but do your best to stay positive. I know it's draining. I know that it feels like shit when you get rejected. It's not easy, especially when you're desperate to get out. I was so desperate to get out and it became super, super frustrating. And then I was like, okay, I'm clearly getting no's for a reason. Maybe this isn't the right time. The universe still needs me to do something else, or the right thing hasn't come my way. So try and learn from that, understand what's happening, know that the universe is going to give you that yes when it's time. Um, and if you need to like do some self-care, if it's like upsetting you to that point, set aside some time to like do some self-care or do something that makes you feel badass again. Like where you're like, hell yeah, I'm actually a badass employee and they are not like they're missing out. Like they're missing out by not having me. So do what you can to stay positive, to help build yourself back up. Build some skills if you feel like you need to, if it is coming down to like skills are what's knocking you out. And maybe sometimes you need to refine your criteria. Some people ended up getting a job and it made them feel like they were amazing and did the most. And then they get into the real world and they're like, oh, actually, I don't actually have these skills, but they think they deserve that job. They think that they deserve that pay. They think that they deserve something that maybe they might not. And sometimes you might need to take something as a stepping stone. Maybe it's not your forever home, but you need to find a different job if it's affecting your mental health or your personal life or whatever. So take a stepping stone, get out of a bad situation, and then keep looking. So don't take everything so seriously. Like you can change jobs, you can have a stepping stone. Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. Maybe you need to refine what you're looking for. Maybe you need to think outside the box of positions or companies. Or I know people that are like, they'll only apply for jobs that are remote and then they're miserable. So it comes down to if you're not able to get those jobs and it's not working out, maybe you need to try something different. And if you're not, then you need to accept the fact that you're putting yourself in a very defined category and you're going to have a lot of competition. So just pay attention to those things. I know it's frustrating and I know it sucks and I'm really sorry if you're going through that. But yeah, I think I'm almost reaching my hour. So I'm going to do an asking for a friend and I think I'll end it at that. So hashtag asking for a friend. Should I wait, how is it worded? I don't want to get my notes. Hashtag asking for a friend. Should I ask for more in my salary in the interview? And the answer is 1000% yes. I know people that like just say what they're making and it's like, girl, no, you should definitely say like, here's what you should do. Some people are worried about asking for more because A, it's really hard for women, especially to ask for money. And B, you don't want to overqualify yourself by them being like, oh, well, she's out of budget. We can't afford her. The best thing you can do is for sure ask for more money, do some market research, find out what that job should be paying, could be paying, those types of things. And then also what your salary is now and what you want to be making. So go into it saying I make X, knowing that you don't fucking make that because they're not going to call someone and say, is she making $80,000? No, they don't do that. So no one's going to call and check up on that. Know what the position is able to pay, what the market is paying for that position, and then ask for the amount of money that you want or need. And if you say that and you're a little bit worried that it might be outside their budget, and sometimes they'll be like, okay, well, we listed it for this range. Oh, that's a big thing too. Pay attention to what they posted the ranges for. So Some companies will post the range, some people won't. I hate when people are like, well, um, I whatever you guys are offering will be fine. No, do not do that. That's literally a terrible thing. But pay attention to the ranges. If they didn't post it, you can state your number and then say, I'm not sure what ranges you have for this position. This is what I'm currently making. I'm open to a discussion around what this looks like because I'm sure you guys have some benefits and maybe those outweigh certain things. So I just need to get a better comprehensive understanding of what is on the table. And so I can look internally to see what I can navigate. And then this is the other part that I would say too is like if they didn't give or no, was it? If they give you a range, if you know that the range is because I already said the outside the range, sorry, or they didn't give the range. Wow, losing it. See, time's up. If you are asking for something outside of their range, you need to say the same things. Like, I know that this is outside the range that you guys posted. Make sure that you highlight that. They want to hear that you saw this is what it is. And then you still said something. There's so many times that people ask, oh my God, there would be people that would ask for a number that was below our range. And I was like, again, did you look at my job posting? Or they'd be like extremely outside the range. So make sure you point out that you know what the range is. Be like, this is my number. I know it's outside the range that you guys posted. I think I saw that it was XYZ. Again, then say the same thing where it's like, I'm open to a conversation around this. I'd like to hear more about like what the benefits are and things that you guys have so that I can really look and see what that looks like for me. If that outweighs certain things, what I can adjust on my end. I am really interested in this position and I would really like to have that conversation before I was automatically ruled out. 100% they'll take a note about that and they'll be like, hell yeah, that's good to know. So um, I think that was it. I think that was the asking for a friend. If you guys have other topics when it comes to careers, business, all of those things, feel free, please do it. DM me either personally or on the podcast page with an idea that you have of like, hey, can you talk about this? We love when you guys do that. Like, hey, can you do an episode on this? Hey, can you do an episode on this? Like, it's the best. So if you have stuff that you want me to touch on, I have a whole list of like episode topics already. But if you send one, I'll make that a priority and I'll talk about that sooner. So I think that is basically it. As you could tell, my brain literally just quit and I couldn't even say words. And I died. So I wish all of you luck if you're looking. I hope that this episode helped you. I hope that something good comes your way. I'm sending all the positive vibes. Remember, the power of the universe is a real thing. And the way you speak, what you're trying to bring into it, it's literally all in your control. So be positive, stay positive. Don't be a Debbie Downer if it's not working. Maybe you need to pivot. Maybe you need to like reorganize. It's okay to like get resituated and try again. So if you want some more advice, tips, whatever, let me know. But sending you the good vibes and hopefully you have a great week. I'll talk to you later. Bye.